It was fun working with Google in the very beginning. We'd be in a room, and then all of a sudden the next year we'd be in a large room, and the next year we'd be on a block. And it kept growing and growing and growing. So that was kind of fun. I didn't even know what was happening to see these things grow and be right alongside, creatively going with them.
Did you get paid in Google stock? That would have been.
They would offer us that, and I didn't. I had to pay the artist cash.
Do you remember the story where I think the guy who drew the mural in Facebook's initial headquarters got paid in stock because they didn't have the money to, and the rest is history.
That's true. Yeah, I was a dummy. Taking over me, I'm gonna be down on my knees. You know I'm ready for this, you keep me begging for this.
This is the Ocio show with Rahul, where I have deep conversations with interesting people on topics that are meaningful, slightly personal, and perhaps controversial.
Roll with this. I could do this all day. I could do this all day. Back up, I'ma run this town. I'm headed for the top and you know it's going down.
Look at time immemorial, like the kings and the courts.
Yeah.
The artists had patronage from these kings, and they had a way to make a living, unless...
do you know the reason for that? Mostly the reason for that was because they wanted to keep those artists
for themselves.
close.
You're right.
Not just for themselves, but they didn't want... There was a way of having kind of those court gestures where they don't want... It's a bridge. They're bridging the gap. The same way I used to do a ton of corporate events, you're bridging this gaping chasm between, us and them. And I'm like, well, I'm really more of a us person. So to me, let's do that, because that can create a real rift. Look what's happening in our culture right now. There's a total us and them thing. And our work is meant to be, let's bring them together. Let's celebrate our commonalities. So I think what a lot of royalties were doing, not just because they wanted the art and all that, is because they wanted to sort of bridge that gap. It made it safe for them. Because when you're in a position of being a king, queen, wealthy, you're also at risk constantly. You're always at risk of being taken down. And so I think by keeping artists close, you're bridging a gap where people value and revere these artists. So therefore, they're a buffer protection.
And also, you get some nice paintings of yourself.
That's
hang
true.
On the wall.
It's also buffering yourself, and that's a known fact that people never discuss about that. But right now, we don't have patrons. Our patrons right now, the new cathedrals in cities are skyscrapers. And in San Francisco, we look out and it's a tech boom. I love tech. I work with tech workers all the time. Do I like what's happening culturally? No, it's become a void. So we no longer have, for a long time I had a good run, sort of bridging that gap, and then suddenly, it was really, the culture of the corporate world became so restricted. It used to be in the early days, they wanted the culture of San Francisco. They would have event creators that would bring us in, and you'd get street performers and theater performers all working together. And then there became sort of its own genre that we would start creating for events, using the technology and kind of trying to speak the language and bridging it, and it was fun. Now it's just a chasm as black as this wall behind us.
I also believe that at some point with AI and all of the left brain stuff being commoditized, tech will look for the next frontier in these arts, because AI can make art, but I think you're still looking at a world where you need inspiration to make the next tech, if I may. You need something beyond what the machines can do, and that would, in my opinion, create a reckoning. I mean, I think it's a matter of time on the value of some of these.
AI is a great tool for artists too. I use AI for a tool all the time. In fact, when AI first came out, not when it first came out, when AI was getting super controversial in the arts, there was the big writer strike going on. And I was like, I didn't know much about it. So I brought somebody in to our studio and said, you have 1 hour to give us a demonstration. And not only a demonstration, everyone has to apply it. The costume designer has to apply it, the writer has to apply it, the musician, everyone has to apply it. And then that day it's a great tool. And now we all adapted to use it as a tool. We don't use it to make art. We use it to help or, something. So it's great. But I think the miracle that people are seeing in the type of work that I do, which is becoming rare, is that we're actually makers. We're actually crafting things. We can look at a pile of mud and turn it into a masterpiece. We can look at twigs falling from a tree that's decaying and turn it into a sculpture. And people are enamored with it. Sometimes I do the simplest thing. I built this little thing. It's just a pulley system, like an old clothesline that has some sculptures on it that tell you a story where one character is coming and one's leaving. And people are absolutely enamored by this silly little mechanical thing that most people would be hanging their dirty laundry on. So it's kind of cool. So and I think that's what people are gravitating to us for, because there's still people making
stuff.
It's very, very sad. We got a call yesterday. We got calls from corporations that are like, we don't want to pay you. So I'm like, what are you supposed to say to that?
And what do they want you to do?
Things that have taken us a lifetime to do, but they don't value it at all, and they tell us that. So I don't answer the phones. Usually the guy tells me what I do. I mean, I would say 2 words, F you, off, because you're not, what are you doing to help? It's very, very sad right now.
But why would anybody make a call of like...
It happens every day.
They wouldn't do this for hiring a caterer, right?
No, they don't do it for hiring anybody. It happens every day to us. And they're telling you, some of them are telling us, we're billionaires, we own this football team, we own this.
So it's a privilege for you to go show up in there.
I don't get involved in the conversation, but I have to figure out how do we turn this conversation into value.
I'm thinking if you're getting invited to Mar-a-Lago at Trump's resort or something.
No, thank you. Yeah.
And then there's like a bunch of influential people and you're performing for free.
Can I tell you where that gets you? Nowhere. So you think I haven't done that as a young artist before? You think I haven't gone through this experience? When I was 15, I was working and I'd get those calls. You know where it took you? Nowhere. You got 100 other calls. Oh, give it to me for free. It gets you absolutely nowhere. So that's somewhere I have to train the artists, because they got the little, they're tempted by this. It gets you nowhere. Zero.
Once you do it, then they're like, oh, you did it for my friend.
It's the oldest basic rule in the book. Like, just no. This guy in 15 minutes raised $600,000 for a tiny organization that served immigrants in Sonoma County, and I had never seen anything like it. And so that became the model for how we do stuff now. Not everybody goes with it.
Is this still an auction?
It's just it's just an ask for money. So in 15 minutes, we can do a fast ask for money. Where, usually auctions, you have 3 or 4 people bidding against stuff, and everyone's alienate it. So it's a way we develop a way that every single person in that room is going to give to the organization that they're there for, from the press table that's there for free to the billionaire that already knew I can give, $500,000. So from $500,000 down to $200 or $100, everyone in the room is giving. We find people that can match the lower donor so that we double or triple or quadruple it. And it's been a way of keeping things really uplifting, really exciting, getting the messages of these places out, raising money without wearing people out, and not taking the resources. So that's kind of been our niche. The flag of San Francisco is a phoenix. I think in the early days it burnt down 6 times. You've been there since I've been there. We go through all kinds of stuff, economic downturns, earthquakes. We keep renewing. Right now, I would not say the city's bleak at all. There's a lot of bad press about it. I think the city's shifted, where all of our neighborhoods are all these little communities and villages right now that are just thriving, and our tourist areas have sort of failed right now. But that will change. Union Square, Fisherman's Wharf, some areas that tourists go to. And my job, fact, as sort of a San Francisco cultural ambassador and having an attraction in the city, is to kind of show people for now how to navigate the city safely, because people are going into shock when they go into an area that's been blighted. That's happening all over the West Coast, not just San Francisco. There are small pockets that are blighted. Hopefully that'll be fixed. Our newest sculpture, I can't always help going back to the Gregangelo name, is we're building a phoenix egg that's going to be in front of the house. It's an egg of a phoenix that has not yet hatched, because that's where we're here. There'll be a digital activation, I don't know what it is right now, that'll ask people, what are you contributing to this rebirth? How are we going to get, out of the ashes of this right now? Because we're not really in the ashes. It's our reputation's in the ashes, and parts of the city are in the ashes. We've lost a lot of businesses.
Yeah. Perception is reality sometimes.
But we have lost a lot of small businesses, for sure. I'm always on the brink of closing. One story I have from that, it just reminded me, I had one guy, I think he was working for one of the rideshare companies, it was a big one, and every time he'd come, he sort of became a regular. He's probably in his 20s. I was like, oh my God, man, you are such an art heart. You are such an artist. It's amazing. And how incredible it is that you're doing like coding all day long, whatever you're doing. And one day he came to me and said, my company's going public. I'm going to be a millionaire tomorrow. I'm like, that's incredible. That's amazing. He goes, no, it's not. I'm like, it is. So what are you going to do? He goes, I quit. I'm like, what? He goes, well, you always told me I'm an artist, so I quit and I'm gonna go be an artist. I'm like, don't listen to me. I'm a idiot. Take your goddamn money and do what you need to do with it. You're good at on both sectors. You can have a foot in both worlds, no problem. But he quit. This guy quit. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And about a year later, he came back to me, traveled, and he discovered that he was great in woodworking. He started carving these totems, and he found his craft in doing that. And he came back, and I remember being on BART, shoulder to shoulder, not even looking at it, just talking on the way to our grimy West Oakland studio. I was like, well, what did you really learn from your odyssey here? And he goes, I just learned that life is just what you do every day. And I kind of looked at him like, can you say that again? It was such a simple thing. Yeah. But you realize that most people aren't doing what they want to do every day. And that's the beauty, that's the richness of being an artist. That's what I tell the artists every day. You are the richest people I know.
You're already rewarded for most of your inner stuff. Yes, the outer stuff, you need to still have sustenance.
It sounds like a cliche, but it's not. But I always tell the artists, you're the richest people I know. Look at these billionaire clients. They're miserable. They're
buying your art, because they don't have something.
Miserable. I've had some of them, literally, some well-known people, I won't say, come up to me, and they treat us like I'm a pimp. I like to take that one, and that one home. I'm like, I'm not. That's not how, we're not.
You're not for sale. Another thing people say is, San Francisco is going to dogs with all the homelessness and opioid crisis, open air opioid markets and all that. Is that a part of San Francisco
That's a national crisis. We're seeing it in the city as well, but that is a national crisis. We can't blame that on San Francisco. I think because of San Francisco's, I'm liberal, but I'm not an idiot. I still care for people. There's not one day when I skate across the city that I don't look at somebody and call 911. I've seen dead bodies. I've seen people walking over dead bodies. I always stop. Sometimes I say you probably got 100 other calls. Here's what I hate about the city. One time I did call, so you probably got 100 calls. I'm in right downtown. There's people walking over this guy and he's dead. It's not just strung out. And he's like, no, you're the first call, sir. And I stood there and I wait for the coroner to come and I watched. Not one person. Everyone became so calloused. I'm no good deed doer. I'm just care. That's it. And I think because people have their rose-colored glasses on so deep because there's so much of it that people have to disconnect from. You can't help everybody.
You can't go to work every day and be break down.
I get it. I don't think I can help anybody, honestly, but you can exercise care by caring. You don't have to do anything even, just care. Sometimes there's a little thing, I don't know, just calling 911, I don't know, get the coroner here, the public health hazard.
It's very simple, yeah.
Or someone's bleeding out on the bus, go to the muni guy driver and say something, but people just ignore everything now. And that's part of the course I don't like, because everyone has the power to do something. It doesn't mean they're going to solve anything or get themselves in danger. Senator Wiener actually said something when I always asked at the end casually, so tell the arts why they should vote. Senator Wiener said, well, on a local level, sometimes these initiatives are getting only 50 votes, 5-0. So 2 people might be pushing it over the edge. So your voice is powerful. That actually kind of alarmed me, that sometimes it's that few people making decisions. So I'd say, get the up and stop complaining and be part of the system and vote. You have the power to do stuff. So everyone wants to complain and does nothing about it. So get up and at least vote. Don't just trash everybody. So it's also self-inflicted. If people are not getting involved in the system that's supposed to govern, you have to somehow get involved. I'm not political. I'm an artist. I'm on the other side of the spectrum, but I still get involved because I care. And so that's kind of a campaign I've been doing now for everybody.
We're in a different political climate than previous this coming 4 years. How do you see art and your stuff and just society shaping up in the next 4 years?
I've been thinking about it a lot. In fact, I hosted a salon on Veterans Day with a bunch of veterans and some other people to talk about that specifically. And the topic was, all right, we know these plans of what's going to happen. Let's not focus on it. Let's see what actually happens. But what are the steps we're going to take as things happen? And the whole conversation was about how do we start bridging? This is going to be a war. How do we start bridging? And I really think it's through art, experiential art, mostly. We can't be doing satirical stuff that's going to, ruffle the feathers of people that we think different than us. That's not going to work. So how do we start bringing it back together? How do we start seeing different views? How do we start seeing different perspectives? That's not easy to do. It's a practice. That's a total practice of putting yourself in the trenches. And I've been doing it. So again, as an artist who does social experiments for a living, I have about 10 texts here right now, or pen pals, I guess I can call them. It's an old-fashioned word for speaking to people who made a vote different than I did and getting to know each other. And through getting to know each other, I mean, one of the conversations was, one of these friends was just traveled to Turkey, and he said, I'm really being hated on in here as an American because of my choice of voting. I'm like, well, what are you being hated on? Well, they just don't understand my values and principles. I'm like, let's stop there. Let's find out, what are your values and principles? Someone hates on you, you can have an intelligent conversation. Well, he wasn't able to have an intelligent conversation in that moment. He was a lot of explanatives about, come on, like that's not your value. By the way, I've met her. She's a powerful woman. I wouldn't call her a bitch. So let's get to the core. What are these principles? I want to know them too, and we can have a conversation about it. He's having a hard time crafting it, but he sent me 3 texts today, and what happens in the conversations is you start finding, what do we have in common? I told him about the Veterans Day, and he's like, oh, I'm not really a vet, but I worked as a merchant marine. So we find things to have conversations about that connect us in a very genuine way.